Hello everyone, this is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of I, the Dragon Crew, and Beautiful Rabbit Hole King Dio, and the upcoming Lore and Fray. Today I've decided it's time to respond to a random video, a randomly selected video of someone attacking Nintendo Switch Online. I will continue doing this until it is accepted by the masses that Nintendo Switch Online is by far the best online gaming service platform in the industry right now. Better than Steam, better than Xbox Game Pass, better than the Epic Game Store. Nintendo Switch Online is killing it, and I don't see a lot of people talking about that. All I see are complaints and bitching. So let's take a look at this video.
Hey everybody, it's the 90s kid, and today we're gonna be talking about Nintendo's legacy content offering on the Nintendo Switch, and how it's just...
This guy went full Video Game Lover 58. Look at this. He uploaded a video bitching about Nintendo on December 25th, Christmas Day. This motherfucker was so lonely. He was so he was so isolated from his family. His parents are so ashamed of him that he made a video bitching about Nintendo on Christmas Day. Unbelievable.
Look, it could be better, okay? It could be better. That's where we're going with this. And look, before we get into this, I'll just be honest with you. If you could leave a like, that is very much appreciated. Also, leave me a comment. What's your... fudge, I don't know, what's your favorite retro Nintendo console of all time? Mine's the Super Nintendo, maybe the Nintendo 64. Let me know in the comments. Engage with me, please. Anyways.
Engage with me? Yeah, please! Please engage with me. I'm so lonely. I'm uploading videos on Christmas Day. I have nothing better to do with my life.
Been about 2 months since the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack launched, and it's... sorry about that, guys. That's my Tamagotchi going off. Sorry, bear with me. I'm just going to take care of this. I'm a man of responsibility.
The fuck? Oh. Why aren't you talking about Nintendo?
Well, I was just sleepy. Went ahead and turned off the lights. Anyways, let's get back on track. The launch didn't go great, alright? Beforehand, people weren't too thrilled about the price hike. It didn't look like it was...
It didn't go great. You saw a lot of people bitching about Nintendo Switch Online. You saw a lot of people bitching about the content, the legacy, the price point, the emulation. But in the end, people still bought it. Like, there are, like, what, over 30 million subscribers right now? They are pulling in, let's see, 30 million times 20. They're pulling in like several $100 million through this service. Like, anyone who's saying it's a failure, that it's underwhelming people, or that it's not doing well, they are deluding you. Not only is this service successful, it is likely going to be one of Nintendo's main pillars going forward, because of how it automatically renews, and like it has an affordable price point, and because of how many users it has. And it's only going to get better from here. Like, once they start enticing people to do it, which they are going to do, there is no real problem with NSO. And that's kind of the point. Like, the first thing this guy brings up when it comes to the popularity of NSO. Oh, a bunch of people on YouTube don't like it. Well, guess what, buddy? People on YouTube don't like anything. Like, shit. What? Like, how long did people keep promoting the Spoony one as one of the most premier video game content creators on the platform, in spite of the fact that he hadn't produced anything in like a decade, right? Like, that's YouTube. That's the YouTube community.
Was a particularly great value. I made a video about how I didn't think it was a great value, and then I made a plan to do like a comparison of all of the launch titles, the Nintendo 64 launch titles, but everybody's done that now. I mean, I don't know, here's some Ocarina of Time. Oh my gosh, look at the Deku Tree. It's not obscured by fog, so it looks horrible. Oh my gosh, look at Goma. It's not obscured in any way, shape, or form. It's just a clear picture. Gets rid of all the atmosphere. Oh, they ruined it. Everybody knows that. The emulation is not particularly good. Now, in Nintendo's defense, they have only been emulating Nintendo 64 games since the early 2000s on the GameCube. So they can't be expected to knock this out of the park right out of the gate, right? And it's not like Nintendo has enough money or manpower or the insider information.
Yeah, I might as well talk about this. I've played everything on Nintendo 64 Online, and there are no real problems with the emulation or the way the games look.
Be able to engineer a really, really high quality emulator. I mean, and look, you may say that, hey, there's all these open source emulators that people have made basically in their free time for, like, no money that work better than the emulator that Nintendo has pushed out. But cut them a break. Yeah, look, the emulation is not great. And it's not just visuals. Controls are also a little bit off. Although, I don't know how much of that is the fault of the emulator and how much of that is the fault of the Joy-Cons and the Nintendo Switch Online Nintendo 64 controller. I've noticed when using them that the analog controls for the analog stick are almost too sensitive. When I use my Pro controller, it's not quite as bad, and I think that's because the analog stick in the Pro controller has a little bit better range of motion. It's not all bad, though. I want to make that clear. It is not all bad. The up-res versions of these games can look great. Star Fox, for instance, looks great. I mean, look at the cockpit. Did you know that their hands were just sort of painted on and they're flat and they look like they're too long and that possibly they're Lego hands? I didn't know that because you couldn't see that in the muddy picture on the original game. I mean, my gosh, how lucky are we that we get to see this? We get to witness this now. And in the Ocarina of Time, you can see the seams between the bitmap tiles that they've used to make the background. I sound like I'm being sarcastic, but that is actually kind of cool to me because I can kind of see how they constructed the game back in the day. Let's take a look at the sequel to Mario RPG. Mario RPG 2, except now some stuff is made of paper. But not all the things are made of paper because that might get a little bit tired. This game looks incredible! Look, the emulation is hit and miss. Some of the games it looks fine, some of the games it doesn't.
Yeah, so we're already starting to see people walk back on these initial complaints. Like, initially it was like, oh man, they ruined everything. The games don't look good, and now you have people admitting that, like, oh wait, these versions of the game look better than the originals in some way. And this has been happening way longer than you might think. They've been toying around with emulation and how to improve the visual quality of older games for a long time. I think in the original Wii Virtual Console release of Star Fox 64, there was a point where they were like they were tweaking it and how it looks and stuff like that. There were these weird updates where it kind of it made the water reflect your R-wing, like the water was like perfectly clear and you could sort of fly over it, like it was completely flat. It looked really off. But they updated and fixed it. It was I'm not completely sure that the decision to re-release these N64 games this way is unintentional. I think they want to make the images look clearer. I think they want to do certain things with it. But again, what is the big complaint that a lot of people had when it comes to Ocarina of Time in particular is that, like, they removed the fog. They removed like some of the atmospheric stuff. But that's actually because they made the image clearer. Like, it wasn't meant to strip away the fog. It was to make the game look better, and it had like some unintentional side effect that I don't think anyone could have possibly foreseen. So for me, I can understand being upset about this kind of thing, right? I'm a big fan of this. I did something similar with No More Heroes 1 and 2, right? Like, I don't like the fact that there is no microphone on the Joy-Con, so you can't like raise it to your ear and hear Sylvia just whisper about how she wants to about how in love with you she is. Like they removed a song from No More Heroes 1. Like there are reasons to play the original No More Heroes over the re-release. And like some of them are like legal issues, there are like some technical problems. Like it's difficult, more difficult than you would think to re-release a game like this, right? So I think that's all it is when you get right down to it. If you're the sort of person who is so adamant about like everything being exactly as they remember it, like just play the game on the original hardware. Like that's the thing about this entire ordeal is that like if you're so fixated on this, just play the original. There's no reason to play this re-release if you really don't want to. If you're such a big fan of these original games, you should still have a functional working copy.
Some of the games have pretty good control, some of the games don't. The Nintendo 64 controller that Nintendo released doesn't work as well as I would hope. Like I said before, the analog stick just doesn't feel right. All of that's, not great, but the really not great thing here is I have no idea where this service is going. Because as it stands right now, it's not worth $50 a year. For 9 Nintendo 64 games, $50 a year is too much. And what I don't
Isn't it already 10?
Nintendo is...
Isn't it already 10 with Paper Mario? And I'm sure it's only going to be a matter of time until we get like the rest of the lineup. And people again. I brought this up on stream last night. People aren't talking about the game trials where they give away full games for free for a week. I just
is being very cagey about when they're going to release more games. Nintendo. Microsoft has the Game Pass, which is an incredible deal.
It can't compete. It can't compete. Game Pass doesn't have the same legacy that Nintendo games have. Already, I would think Nintendo has outstripped Game Pass just by having games consistently available on Nintendo Switch Online. Games like Ninja Gaiden, Legend of Zelda, Super Mario Bros. 3, like those are way, way better than whatever's on Game Pass.
On their own thing. You are running out of time. And look, you have this advantage that no other company has.
It's actually Game Pass that is running out of time because they're spending billions trying to keep this service running, but it's not nearly as popular or successful as people make it out to be. But meanwhile, you have Nintendo, who's primarily leaning on their legacy content to push their online service, and as a result of that, I don't think it's possible for Game Pass to compete with Nintendo Switch Online.
Ridiculous back catalog of games. Why are you holding them back? Like, if there were 20 Nintendo 64 games and a whole bunch more Super Nintendo and NES games available right now, I have no doubt that you would have no problem getting a crap ton of subscribers. Because at the end of the day, the more content you have on a subscription service, the better it is. Look at Disney Plus for that first year. Yeah, The Mandalorian was great, and it definitely drew people in, but they also had a whole bunch of other nostalgic classics on there, so that people wouldn't cancel their subscription immediately after The Mandalorian's first season ended. I think over the last year and a half or so, it's become very apparent that Nintendo has struggled to adjust to working with the pandemic. I don't think they had the ability to go to a majority of their employees being...
I don't think that's true at all. Like I've seen photos of Japan. I've seen girls going around without masks. Like it's not it's not the fucking pandemic. Like shit.
Remote workers because they're such a traditional Japanese company. And so as a result, their game output has slowed down considerably. And I'm wondering if Nintendo is feeling like because they have somewhat of a more sparse
their game output has slowed down. What the fuck are you talking about, you piece of shit? Like, 2021 was one of the best years in gaming I've had in a long, long fucking time, okay? I love 2021. And that this guy is seriously going to try to tell you that, like, the fucking Chinese super flu is killing so many people, like, so many game developers that Nintendo can't get games put out. Like, fuck off. That's just not true.
release schedule that they can produce hype by releasing old Nintendo 64 games at a drip. But I just don't think that's a great strategy. And as the years go by, as the months go by, rather, the Switch becomes more and more outdated. I mean, let's be honest.
They're trying really hard to push this narrative. The Switch is outdated, it can't compete, it can't stay relevant. Meanwhile, in Japan, you're getting 30 out of the 30 best Famitsu bestsellers are all Nintendo Switch games. Like, your narrative does not match up with reality.
Was basically a generation behind when it launched back in 2017, and now it's kind of 2 generations behind. So they need a different draw. And like Disney, Nintendo has, well, a great amount of nostalgic content that they could be giving their customers. I just feel like there's this void that needs to be filled in terms of content. And the best way to fill that void would be to allow us the ability to play more of their retro titles. Imagine being able to have access to all of the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, heck, maybe even some of the DS games, as well as many of their home console games, you know.
So what you're saying is that they should do what they did with the Wii U Virtual Console? You fucker. Like, what happened with the Wii U Virtual Console is that, like, everyone bought the Mario and Zelda games and just kind of ignored everything else. I think with Nintendo Switch Online, the way it's structured, the way it's priced, rather, is that, like, you get access to everything at about the same price point that normal people would commit to on the Virtual Console. And of course, people will start discovering, like, some more obscure games on there. The Virtual Console idea, people talk a lot of shit about Nintendo Switch Online, but the problem with the Virtual Console is that a lot of these same people didn't buy games on Virtual Console either. I remember how they like were trying to justify pirating, like, Earthbound and some shit. Like, what do you mean I had to pay $10 for a game I could pirate and download for free? Like, that was what they were going with back then. And although people like me are still buying Nintendo Wii U games at, like, you know, $7 or $8 a pop, like, you know, getting Super Mario Kart and New Super Mario Bros. DS and stuff like that, like, plenty of people didn't, and Nintendo realized that and adapted, and now they have an online subscription service, and I think the subscription service is already far more popular than the eShop is. I would prefer to own the games, but unfortunately, the market rejected that idea.
SNES, Nintendo 64, and if we're really, you know, just going pie in the sky, dreams, maybe some GameCube games as well. Having that large library keeps people playing their Switch, even when you have a sparse release schedule. So as third-party support of the Switch begins to dwindle a little bit because it becomes too difficult to get their games running on this aging hardware, Nintendo is...
Nope. If developers aren't putting games on Switch, it's their own fault. They need to be developing for Switch as their primary platform going forward. Do not try and justify the way third parties treat Nintendo hardware.
Still providing a good amount of content to their customers, even if they can't get their own AAA titles out as quickly as they may want. The Switch is in a really good spot right now, and nobody's arguing that. But just because it's in a good spot now doesn't mean it's going to be in a good spot 6 months down the line. I know it's selling very well, and it may seem kind of silly to be sounding the alarm, but I'm thinking about the long term here, and for the long-term health of Nintendo, they need to get their legacy content available, and they need to stop keeping it locked away from their customers. But, you know, also take all this with a grain of salt, because I was an English major in college. I didn't take a single business class. I have no interest in business or economics.
That shows very well.
This whole thing was a waste of time, I think.
Oh, wow! He became self-aware for a moment there.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, okay. That was really fucking dumb. Yeah, so, like, just release more games, Nintendo. They are. Like, that's the thing, they are. Do you realize how many games are on NSO already? Like, some of them, I'd say, like, all of them, the all-time classics are already there. Now it's just a matter of, like, getting some cult classics on there. Like, I find it very hard to believe that like casual gamers have gone through stuff like Zelda 2 or Sin and Punishment or Ninja Gaiden or like like all sorts of classic stuff like Kirby's Adventure. I'm sure a lot of people, in my age range have never played that. A great NES game, right? The original Legend of Zelda, like there's a lot of classics. There's a lot of stuff to do in gaming already. It's kind of silly to put out endless video game content on your online gaming service when like there's still so much for most audiences to play. I myself still need to finish Ocarina of Time and Paper Mario, and I think I am going to do that soon. Here soon. I was thinking about streaming it tonight actually, but I'm getting really sick of these arguments and these passive aggressive like nonsense arguments, and I hope eventually Nintendo is able to stomp out Game Pass and establish themselves as the premier video game company of the new decade.